Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD. It's always JD, and it's always Michelle, but we don't always get the intro right. I'm so proud of us.
We got it
what
right
a good
this
day.
time. We nailed it.
We're even recording when the sun's up. The sun's up. Guns are up.
Let's be honest, Michelle. Daytime recording has not always been our friend. You know,
I know.
I
that's
say
why
that,
I'm so
but
proud.
I think what we could really say is just recording has never been our friend. It doesn't seem to really matter when we do this, how we do
Fair.
it. Hey,
If it's your first time checking in with us, we're always like this.
I promise we're semi-pro podcasters. Is that what we would call it, Michelle? Definitely not professionals. I think semi-pro.
You have radio experience. I like talking. Together, that might be enough to be semi-pro.
I think
I don't know what the rules are.
I'm going with it. Semi-pro podcasters.
Excellent.
Hey, number 62 film review podcast in the United States on Apple Podcasts at one time, Michelle. Number 62 out of like 9,000. That's a lot.
I don't think I could name like 5 review podcasts, so that's fair.
Right.
I think like the
My
5 I
favorite
could
part,
name
though,
are probably because you've told me about them.
Well, and I have to, you have to phrase the numbers that way because the truth of the matter is the steepness, the slope of the curve from number 62 to number 1 might as well be a vertical line. So, you know, it sounds cooler when you say you're number 62 out of all 9,000 film. You can't be like, yeah, we're still a micro fraction of what the Bechdel cast is doing, you know? Anyway,
no, our numbers are
that's
small
what
but
JD
mighty.
obsesses about. Yes. We love you guys. You're the best. Thank you for tuning in.
Our listeners are very active in our community, and I love that. I talk to people. I know I'm on a first name basis. I talk to some of our listeners more frequently than I talk to friends I see in real life. And you know what? That's pretty cool.
Guys. We love you.
Yeah, guys.
Anyway, that was man, we must just be having a Friday because we're just in a good mood and we're ready to go. We're talking about a movie today that Michelle has been on my case for I'm pretty sure since before we started the podcast. She's been telling me that I need to see this movie. It's one, obviously, it was a high-profile film. I've been aware of it since it was new. Just one that I just never got around to. Michelle has sung its praises to me over and over and over. What are we talking about today, Michelle?
We are talking about The Mist. And at this point...
The Mist.
I should just pause because I know you're going to sing the title every time, and I should just let you do it. I don't know why I continue. Yeah, I need to just pause, let you have your moment.
The Mist.
There we go. So we were talking about The Mist, and at this point, every time that you give me an opportunity to just pick whatever movie I want, I'm just working my way through my list of movies that I want you to see, and I know you haven't. Next time I get a free-for-all, it's Repo the Genetic Opera.
August 31st. We're looking for something for the last episode in August because they dropped the schedule and there's nothing there. So I guess if you want to listen to JD and Michelle talk about Repo the Genetic Opera, this is how we decide things. Planning, guys. I told you, semi-pro podcast. We don't plan. We're just gonna we come up with ideas right here in the raw for you, just like sugar. And anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. Michelle, take over.
I'm still processing in the raw like sugar. It took me a second.
Sugar in the raw?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway,
in the raw like
Repo the Genetic Opera coming later. The Mist coming now. I don't like the IMDb description. Usually we read a description script from one of the sites. I don't like it. Should I just make one up, JD?
I think you should do whatever your heart desires, Michelle.
Oh, don't say that. I'm a depressed individual. Some of those are real dark thoughts. My heart leads me to bad places sometimes.
I think in relation to the summation of this film's description script, you should do whatever your heart desires.
Excellent. I shall do that. So my description of this movie is there's a fog, aka the mist, in a town, and it's kind of spooky. The Mist. 2007, rated R, 2 hours, 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
JD,
I
you
think
okay?
if it was, yeah, I'm fine. I just had a little bit of a medical cough. I think what I would say is, one day the Mist rolls into town and some shit happens. The Mist. Frank
shit goes
Darabont,
down.
Stephen King.
Mist comes into town, shit go down. That is the description of this movie.
That should have been the poster tagline. Mist comes to town, shit goes down.
The Mist, he's pissed. I'm just going to write movie poster taglines from now on. This is my job. I'm quitting my job.
I laughed the wrong way there because now the dog is barking again. He heard me laugh.
That's fair.
Let's enough talk about the dogs. Michelle, the Mist.
JD,
yeah.
I want to hear your spoiler-free thoughts first. I don't want to go first because you know how I feel. Yes.
Are you sure?
And I have a guess as to your score, and it's not a 5. And I have a list of like pluses and minuses, so I want to know if I'm accurate.
Okay. Spoiler-free thoughts on The Mist. Well, first things first. It's 2 hours and 6 minutes long, and you know how I feel about that. But that being said, here's what I can say about The Mist. The Mist is a perfect example of why I, as a general rule and in 95% of cases, do not like CG animation in my live-action horror movies. The unfortunate thing for me on this experience, Michelle, because I do know how much you love this film, the effects, the creatures and the effects and things are so hokey to me that I could not get into this. At no point whatsoever was I able to suspend that disbelief and just buy the threat and the suspense and the tension. It's from that era. When did this movie come out? 2007, I think.
2007. Yep.
Yeah, it's from that era where they were just everybody, and not just horror movies. Everybody was just, we just do everything CGI now because why wouldn't we? Of course, it's better. Well, no, not always. And this movie, I was so disconnected from it that by about halfway through, I started thinking to myself, like, what are there ways they could have done this same thing with practical effects that would have made it far more effective for me? And I really think they could. I think there is a good movie here, but it is a victim of its technique, for me, at least. I couldn't connect with this at all. I don't see any reason that I would ever watch it again. I thought some of the ideas were cool, so giving it credit on that, 1.5 skulls.
What? Okay, I did have you down as
Michelle.
2.
I was so bored.
No.
I think if this had been the same movie but only been 90 minutes long, I probably could have given it a 2. But I
did
this
deduct a
movie
full
and
point when calculating your score because it was over 90 minutes.
126 minutes. Come on.
Okay. Well, do you want to hear my thoughts?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about this movie because of you. Yes, tell us what you love about it.
It's all my fault. So while we're in the spoiler-free section, I'm going to keep it kind of brief. Actually, part of my review is kind of a response to yours, and that is that, to me, the threat is not the mist. The threat is the people, and that was what I cared about, and that is always what draws me in the most to an apocalyptic
The real
threat
monsters were us the whole time.
Exactly. We were the dangers.
I'm actually glad you pointed that out because it's a thought I had while I was watching this is just like, oh, this is just like a feature film version of The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. which is that famous Twilight Zone episode about the neighborhood where everybody's going crazy because they think there's a threat coming in, and then it's a anyway. Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen that one. I'll have to go back and watch it. I love the Twilight Zone.
I bet you've seen it, and you're just not connecting the dots from the name and my shitty description. It's like one of the 5 most legendary episodes of the Twilight Zone there is.
Oh, well, shit. Yeah, I will have to go revisit it then and see if I remember it. Okay, so yeah, I love when people screw everything up and that they're the reason that things go terribly wrong. And this is one of those movies where people just make things worse. They make everything so much worse. There is a bigger threat here. I know the effects are not great. They're not good at times. There are some that I think were pretty solid for 2007 era, but like JD, I always prefer practical effects. This just was something that I could look past because it wasn't what I was watching the movie for. It is also one of my favorite emotionally devastating movies ever. We will talk about why in the spoiler section. But this one, I guess because I was able to connect to it, that first time I watched it, I was like, oh no, it's just very heartbreaking and very good for that reason. You say emotionally devastating, I say I'm down. That's my favorite. So I'm going with 5 skulls, obviously, to nobody's surprise.
5 skulls for Michelle. Before we get into spoilers, I do then also would like to rebut a couple of things in a spoiler-free fashion, just maybe as a tease for the spoiler section. I did put a lot of emphasis on the effects, and that was the major hang-up in this for me. There are some elements of the plot and the story that I also were really off-putting. I bet you can guess what they were. We'll talk about those in detail in the spoiler section. But here's the interesting thing about the emotionally devastating thing you're talking about. The interesting part of that experience for me, and we'll definitely talk about that, is that the thing that you found so emotionally devastating, because I was not invested in the story by the time we got there in any way, I actually found the whole thing very hokey and just like, just very edgelord, kind of like, what's the worst thing we could do? We really pulled the rug out. And I don't think that's what they were trying to do. I think, again, just because I was not invested in the story, and that's interesting to me how that can play.
We will have to talk about that.
I was like, of course they did. Anyway, yeah, guys, if you want to see The Mist, if you haven't already, it's 17 years old. So frankly, I don't know why you need a spoiler warning, but there it is. There's your spoiler warning. We're going to rip this one all to pieces, much like that boy in the movie. Hey, I told you, we already gave you the spoiler warning. There's a boy who gets ripped to pieces. I'm sorry. Michelle?
Several of them.
Do you think you can, because you've probably seen this movie, what, like 50 times?
Probably. I've read the book.
All right.
All of that. We got big book nerd Bertha guesting on this one, by the way. Big book nerd
Bertha. All right.
And I got some comments about the book that we'll come back to.
It's Michelle, it's not a book, it's a novella. We talked about this.
A novella.
Which comes right in between.
Novelette.
Right, yeah, you've got your novel and your novella and your novelette and then your short story. Why do we need 4? I don't know. 2 seems like it would have been enough, but, what do I know? This is the same country where we have the Wendy's Frosty, where somebody said, a milkshake is nice and so is soft serve ice cream, but what I really need is something that's just right there in between the two, and also could you make it completely non-dairy? That would be great. Everybody thinks the Baconator is the most American thing.
Wendy's.
I'm not shit-talking. I'm just saying everybody talks like the most American thing at Wendy's on the menu is the Baconator. Bullshit. The most American thing on the Wendy's menu is the Frosty. For that reason.
Now, so we're recording this fairly early in the evening. It's only 5:11, and I think for supper I'm going to go get myself a Wendy's Frosty. I'm going to get some fries, and I'm going to dip my fries into my Frosty,
shit.
and that is going to get my supper. Man, that sounds
Y'all,
so
if you've
good.
never done that, I mean, it's got to be just a common knowledge thing at this point, right? I would hope so. But if you've never heard,
so good.
Go to Wendy's, French fries and chocolate Frosty. You dip them some bitches. It's amazing. I don't know why I said it.
I think I'm just in a particularly, who knows? I think I'm in a particular fast food mood because I messaged Shady earlier. I have this on DVD. I've seen The Mist many times, but just for ease of convenience, I decided to watch it on Prime and their Freevee service, in which they have ads throughout. And oh my God, the places that they chose to put ads were so upsetting to me. Like at one point, somebody dies in a very, very gruesome manner. And then it's like 2 seconds later, BK, have it your way, your move, like your rules, whatever it is. But like I got so many Burger King commercials throughout The Mist, and it felt weird and I didn't like it.
Not to sidetrack things again,
summary?
but that's something that, man, as the future of streaming proceeds, somebody at some point has to throw their hand up and say, hey, could we stop just stuffing these ad breaks in willy-nilly, please? Like, everybody, Freevee, just sticks them in. Tubi, just sticks them in. So many of these ad-supported places, they don't give a shit. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Michelle, tell these people what happens in The Mist.
Okay. So, there's Mist. Surprise, surprise. They said in the title, that's not a spoiler. And this guy, his name's David. And here's the cool thing about David. He is not played by Aaron Eckhart. I know, it's surprising. He's played by this other guy named Thomas Jane. And if you gave me Thomas Jane and Aaron Eckhart together, I would just think that they were twins. And apparently I've just thought like Aaron Eckhart is this guy for a very long time. I've seen it so many times, but then I look at them and they look the same, but they look different. Anyway, David Thomas Jane, not Aaron Eckhart. I know. I was also surprised. So David, he's got a son. What's the son's name? Something generic. I think it was Billy. Was he a Billy? He was a Billy. Okay, he was the most generic little boy name possible. So David has a little boy named Billy. Wow, how American. And he also has a neighbor, and it's that guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Andre Braugher, and he plays Brent Norton. And Brent and David, man, they don't get along, but today they're going to get along because The Mist brings people together, and sometimes it tears them apart. Yes, JD?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but did you just call him Andre? Andre Braugher. You said Andre Braugher, and there's something about just the pronunciation of Andre instead of Andre that just,
oh no, it's because
just
I was
knocked
reading
me for
it.
a loop. It's just it wasn't even like I wanted to rip on you. I was just like, it's
the bag versus bag thing.
I'm pretty sure that's the first time in my entire life I've ever heard anyone pronounce that name Andre, and that's fabulous. Anyway, please continue.
Well, Andre. Oh, man. Anyway,
Brower,
Andre,
by the way. Brower.
Okay, yeah. See, this is what happens when I read words and I don't hear them out loud. And we're so far into this show and I still don't look up how to pronounce any of these names. I always get it wrong, except for Thomas Jane. Thomas Jane is easy.
I just almost said it's funner that way. So, here we are. We all got our language issues.
I love that we don't edit. And you guys just get us raw. So David, Billy, and Brent.
Get us
those
raw!
This is going to be a long one, you guys. So they go to a grocery store. Are you okay, JD? Okay.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay, that sounds good. So they go to the grocery store, and there's a bunch of people at the grocery store because The Mist is outside the grocery store, and these people are inside the grocery store, and that's how grocery stores work. They keep the mist out. It's the number one reason that they were invented, was to keep mist away from the food. So everybody's there and they're buying some food because, oh my God, this could be the world ending. And then this guy comes running in and he's like, oh my God, they killed Billy Lee or whatever that guy's name is. And everyone's like, I don't know. And then the mist shows up and it's very dense. And they're like, we should probably leave now. And everyone's like, no, don't leave. And a bunch of people are like, we're going to do it anyway. And they leave. And then one girl, she's very freaked out. And she's like, but I have to get home to my children. And everyone's like, bitch, we hate kids. This is anti-kids here. And Billy, cover your ears. You're fine. But all the other kids can get fucked. We don't like them. They can just fuck right off. And she's like, oh, won't somebody here see a lady home? And then she leaves and is presumably dead. And then humans, they're frustrating. David goes into the back to get some blankets for his kid because, kids, right? He's got to keep him warm and not dead. So he goes into the back to get some blankets, and then the generator's backing up. So a bunch of people, they come into the back, and then they're like, we're going to lift the garage door up so that we can let this one guy from American Pie go out there. And he definitely is not going to be the first person who dies on screen in this film. And nope, just kidding. He gets tentacled. And he gets yeeted out into the mist, and then they cut off a tentacle, and now they have that as evidence. And they go back out and they're like, everybody, there's tentacles outside. And they're like, we don't believe you. And then they're like, well, come look at the tentacle. And some people, they do go look at the tentacle, but then the tentacle disintegrates and now their evidence is gone. So now a cult forms because humans are fucking weird. And this one lady is like, I know all about Jesus, and this is Jesus fog. And they're like, okay, we believe you, lady. And then nighttime comes, and now there's bugs, and they're attracted to the lights. And what happens is a bunch of hillbillies run through the grocery store and turn more lights on, and everybody's like, turn the lights off. And they're like, turn them on? And then the one lady dies in a very, very explosive face way. Like, she doesn't explode, but I mean, like, she swells up to the point where I'd be like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to explode. This is not good. So she dies. And thank God that she got to die very quickly after that. And then the religious lady, she's spared by one of the mosquitoes. So everybody's like, whoa, she predicted this. Then they go to venture out to the pharmacy, and they find some people who had left earlier. Oh, there was a whole thing where a rope got pulled back in and it was bloody and connected to half a torso. That was dope. So they go to the pharmacy and Miss Spiders. And they're like, fuck this. And they go back to the grocery store. Because again, grocery stores invented to keep mist away. You don't want mist touching your food at any point. That's the one takeaway from this movie. Then the people who are smart and the ones that we've been following, including David, Billy, Ollie, I think, an old lady, and Amanda, and like two other people who die in the parking lot. So who fucking cares? They decide that they're leaving. And the cult lady is like, no, you're not. We demand a sacrifice. And I learned a word called expiation. And that's a fun word to say. So she demands expiation. She's like, we're going to kill the kid. And everyone's like, what the fuck? Even for a Stephen King movie, that's pretty edgy. But we knew the kid wasn't going to die yet. So then the cult woman, she gets shot and dies immediately. And I love that so much because like there's just no fanfare. Just sorry, bitch, you got shot once and now you got shot in the head and you're dead. Sorry, you don't have a connection. Jesus. And then they get out to the SUV and they drive by while people watch, and there's chanting music, and it's one of my favorite moments where all these people are like, oh my God, we're not getting rescued. Then they're driving off and they're going to see how far they can get on their gas tank. They see a giant monster above them. That's pretty cool. They go check in on David's wife. They should not have checked in on David's wife. She's not doing too well. She got spidered. And then they run out of gas. So David's like, okay, I guess there's 5 of us and 4 bullets. I know how to do math. I'm going to kill all of you very quickly, and then I'll figure something out. So then he kills his son, Amanda, the 2 old people. Then he just screams in the car for a while. He tries to shoot himself in the head. Doesn't work because, dude, you already knew you only had 4 bullets. You saw them. You knew. But you know what? He's hopeful. Not as hopeful as he should have been, though, because if he had held out 2 minutes, the mist clears. The army walks by. The woman who ran out to find her children earlier and asked if somebody would walk her home, she's on one of the trucks. Her children are fine. And as the screenplay indicates, David screams, and I quote, "And will never stop." The Mist. That's the movie.
That's The Mist. Yep, it sure is. So you didn't find that ending just kind of real hokey and like, oh, what's the craziest thing we could do? Oh, he killed his kid when he didn't have to. I have to believe it's entirely connected to how invested I was in the story at that point. But man, that ending just felt like I wasn't off put by it in the sense of like, sometimes movies kill children and it's used in a way that's very off-putting.
You
to
don't
me.
like that?
JD's
but not
this
a
way,
fan.
No, this is just the. Also, I would like to point out, Michelle, you were like, "Oh, they're gonna kill the kid," and that's kind of extreme, even for a Stephen King story. I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Stephen King kills children on the regular."
Yeah.
That's
Stephen
one of
King
Stephen
movie
King's
is what I meant.
One of Stephen King's favorite things to write about is murdering children.
Yes. I meant
somebody
movie.
might want to
It's
talk
edgy
to
for
that
a
guy.
Stephen King movie.
Yeah, I mean, well, there was that Dr. Sleep thing.
They die off screen usually.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, like I said,
and that was recent and edgy.
Yes, it was. So yeah, I just so much of my issue with this movie is just that I was completely unable to suspend my disbelief about the monster. So I don't even know that I have a lot to say about it outside of that from like a spoilery perspective, except for I just as I'm sure you probably expected, once it took this real Jesus-y, like, oh, I'm like don't get me wrong, I know like crazy religious fanatics and crazy cult mentality and herd mentality. I understand all this stuff is real and it's out there. But this does that thing where that movies so often do, where it takes things that generally would take a little bit more time and sort of time compresses them. And it just all felt a little arch, a little like a little heavier than it ever would have gotten. Like I feel like, I don't know, it just, the way that cult developed and also just the, me and especially Judeo-Christian religious stuff, it's just, I don't care. And once you bring those elements in, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I mean, we've been telling you about religious cults for literally the entire history of time. And that's what it very much became to me, just like another, it's like, oh, turns out the bad guys were us the whole time. And I just, I couldn't connect with it at all. Okay. And I think that's, I don't know what else I would have to say about it.
I have so much to say about it. So
please do.
Fine.
Tell these people all about why you love this movie, Michelle.
Yes, absolutely. So part of it is
really get in there. Really get in there. Let them find out.
Okay. Big book nerd Bertha is going to have to come out a little bit, because this was originally not a short story, but a novella in Skeleton Crew, published in 1985 by Stephen King. I love anthology movies. I love anthology books even more. This one's so long, it could have basically been a book. I was disappointed reading it and being like, this is a really long short story. I did not know what a novella was at the time, because the internet was not very prevalent and you couldn't just Google, like, what do you call a 180-page book? And they're like, not a book, it's a novella. I don't know if it's that many. I think it was like 120. Anyway, I'm just trying to remember something I read in like 2005. So this has a huge nostalgia factor for me because I did see it right when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters. I think I rented it pretty much immediately after. So by 2007 standards, effects were fine. It's something that I can overlook at this point because I love this movie so much that when I watch it, I go, oh man, those effects, but I still don't care. I think because I had established love for it, now that I've seen how good effects can be and how much better practical effects are, it's like, okay, fine. I can overlook it. The book versus the movie has some really cool stuff because so much of the story is the same, but that ending is completely different. And I think this is also why I love the ending so much. In the book, there are 4 people in the car, not 5. The older guy, I think his name's Ollie, he does not make it in the book. It is just David, Amanda, Bill, and Mrs. Repler. And there is, David tries to drive to his house to see if his wife made it. He can't. I think the road was blocked, if I remember. I could not get through the entire book. I tried to skim and did not look that part up because I was like, I'm not reading The Mist a second time today on a Friday afternoon, but I did try to skim very, very quickly. So he tries to make it back. So he doesn't know if his wife's dead. They're venturing in the car, and he pulls out the gun and realizes, okay, well, I have 3 bullets in this case instead of 4. I have 3 bullets, and he considers whether or not he's going to just kill everybody and then find a different way to kill himself, and decides not to. He takes the gun out, he puts it back, and then they drive off hoping that they will find the end of the mist or civilization or something, and it is incredibly open-ended and actually pretty hopeful. So I had read that book already. I watched the movie and knew there's significant differences, but the overall, like, very high level plot is the same. Except when they got to that ending, I think because I did not expect it, especially like given that I had read the book, it took me back so much. I was like, what the fuck? Just, I think the way that the guy who's not Aaron Eckhart, Thomas Jane, whose name I always forget because I think they're the same person. Thomas Jane, I think the way that he portrays that is so good. His grief is so just raw. They don't give you too much gratuitous violence. The gunshots happen from outside. We're watching from within the mist, this going down. And we don't see any of the gore except for blood on the windows and very faintly behind him. It's not like we see his son dead at any point. We're focused on his grief and his reaction to what happened, and we're not given the gratuitous imagery that accompanies that. And then the fact that if he had just waited a couple fucking minutes, we would have not had any of that happen, just blindsided me. Again, saw this in 2007 when we had not seen as many of those edgy style endings. I think this was kind of one of the first times that a movie made me go like, what the fuck for an ending? A lot of things where they like to end with like everything wrapped up nicely. Maybe not necessarily a happy ending, but everybody like, they'll be fine. They might need a little bit of therapy, but this guy's never gonna be okay again. Also, it makes me wonder if the religious lady was right that they did need a sacrifice to make the mist end. Because the second those people get out of there, then the mist ends and they're like, oh, we just need to wait like a couple more hours. And then also another thing, one of my favorite scenes from this is when they get out to the car and they're driving away past all those windows of the people in the grocery store, realizing their Messiah is dead. And now these people have made it into the mist and they are driving away. And for all they know, they're going to be fine because nobody else has made it to a vehicle as far as they know. And it's this very slow motion, very dramatic, the chanting music. I love it. We got to talk about the music in a second. But all of that is happening. And then with that ending, it makes me wonder if everybody in the grocery store is fine. If they had stayed put, did this guy wind up with the worst ending out of everybody in this film? He wasn't killed quickly. Instead, he just saw his wife get spider-webbed. Didn't see it happen, but he saw her spider-webbed. Knew it was his fault because he didn't patch up the window. Just shot his child to death. That's devastating. And now everything's fine. The people back at the store who were following this extreme religious cult are fine. He's going to have to see them on the street at some point. I think he winds up with the worst fate of anybody in this movie. And I love that. I just want a man to be destroyed permanently by a film that I watch. And they did that successfully with him. And thank you. Thank you for that.
I love that. I just want to see somebody's complete life destroyed. I want to see utter devastation. I want to see a human being brought to complete and utter ruin.
Absolutely.
I mean, at least you're honest, I guess.
Yeah. I just destroy them for my entertainment.
Yeah. I just, like I said, it felt, I also, a big issue that I have, and I didn't think about it on that level about, like, maybe it was a sacrifice that needed to be made, because I did hate that it's like, oh, the mist just goes away, and all of a sudden all the big giant monsters are just gone. They're just
they're burning
gone.
them. We're watching the military take them out. They're not just fading away.
Well,
I don't know how the fuck they're gonna take care of that big guy with all the tentacles on his belly, though. I love that the gigantic monster.
Yeah, the colossal fucking 10 times bigger than Godzilla, giant fucking awful. God looks. I don't even know how you would begin to describe it. Thing. Yeah, they're just gonna.
You think he's bigger than Godzilla?
It was fucking huge.
Oh,
like that thing was
I
fucking
didn't think bigger than
Titan
Godzilla.
sized. Oh God,
yeah. You got a point.
Well, anyway,
on a scale of 1 to Godzilla, I thought that guy was like a 5.
And also, once again, this is also just that kind of story where, like, I would like to know more about the monsters, I guess. Probably because I probably want to know more about the monsters because I didn't give a shit about any of the people. I think that's the... because there are certainly movies I've seen where they don't give you a lot of information about what's happening, and I'm totally fine with those movies. And it's like, I think that's the thing to me is I can see a movie where you don't tell me what the monster really is and there isn't a threat, but you have to make me give a shit. And I apparently am very tight about my giving a shit and probably need to loosen up a little bit. But...
that could be a rectum reference. You're very tight about giving a shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, it's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor.
it's a good literal. Anyway, so yeah, I don't really have a lot more. I don't have anything against the film. It just didn't connect with me. Oh God, Michelle's got way more to say. You wanted to talk about the music, Michelle. Tell us about the music.
I did. So
was there music in this movie?
Yeah, did you not hear the Gregorian chanting?
I mean, I'm sure
very 2007.
I'm sure I heard it. Whether or not I acknowledged it is another thing entirely.
Okay. Well, I love the way that this movie uses music, but more importantly, I love the way it doesn't use music. There are a lot of parts of this that I think other films would have considered having like some sort of light back soundtrack, but there isn't. It's just watching these people and their conversations. And while we're doing that, the camera is very handheld and very shaky. And because there isn't this big production quality with different music and really like a static camera from just one angle, I think it helped me feel like I'm a part of this. Like I'm just watching along with them. It all just added a lot of realism to what was going on. And I think that brought me in a lot more to the story and made me care about the characters. I fucking hate the religious woman. Mrs. Carity, I think is her name. I hated her. Carmody. She pissed me off so much. And I was really looking forward to her dying. And the way that she dies, I cannot emphasize enough how much I love the way that she dies, where it's just bullet to the brain, she's gone, and everyone's like, oh no, now what do we do? I love that so much. Because like I've said, I enjoy movies where people are the problem, and this stuff would have been fine if this cult didn't decide to be a cult, I guess. Like they would have all just stayed in the grocery store and the military would have come to rescue them eventually. Some people would have ventured out, as we all know, but they were in a grocery store. It's a perfectly safe place to be. They have food. They have other things there. They had a back room where they said that they had camping gear and stuff. So they had everything they could possibly use. Once they figured out the bugs were attracted to light, then they just would have stopped having bugs come around at night because the lights would be off. Everything could have been fine, but people had to ruin it. And people started in the first place. Speaking of, we almost got a completely different beginning to this movie that I think would have ruined it completely. The initial plan, what Frank Darabont had written, by the way, that is the writer and the director who also did The Green Mile and Shawshank Redemption. So it's funny that this is like the trilogy of Stephen King movies that he's done because they feel same but different in very, very big ways. But I love all of them, so no complaints. But the movie beginning that we almost got, in the original screenplay, it was us watching them open the interdimensional portal and these creatures coming out. and then the title card shows up, and then the rest of the movie is exactly the same. And that would have been a goddamn tragedy. Because part of what makes this appealing is that we don't know, just like the people in this movie don't know what happens. And we only get told by the military guy at the end. And even then, we're not 100% if that's accurate, like, because he doesn't even know for sure. He's like, we just heard these rumors of stuff. And then, God, the way that guy gets killed is, he looks kind of vampiric, by the way. Did you notice that? He's got a lot of, like, heavy lipstick on in this movie. He definitely looks like gothic, and I kind of love it, though. I had to go look him up because I was like, is he from, like, the Twilight series or something? You know, but he's not. He just looks like that.
I'm glad you mentioned the soldiers and that subplot about the military. I gotta be honest with you. I feel like I would be less interested in what's going on here if they had just left that part out completely. It serves no purpose other than to kind of try to maybe explain what's going on, and I think it's that half attempt that's the problem. I feel like you either need to go all the way or not go at all. But because you teased me with this idea, now I'm kind of expecting some kind of resolution to that, and I don't get it. So I feel like, and I think the movie would have been totally fine, or at least would have been the exact same movie overall, if they had just left that whole subplot out. About, there's a military base and they're doing crazy stuff over there. It seemed like they were trying to insist on this, here's another level of social criticism in this movie, is now it's also about the military-industrial complex on top of being about religious cults. Even that sort of stuff, like I said, I really think the time compression in this is what makes a lot of it so implausible and for me and hard to connect. Even if this movie had simply happened over, say, 4 or 5 days, rather than 6 hours, 7 hours in a grocery store, I would find it far more plausible and easier to connect with than the idea that this whole cycle of cult development and things all happen in the span of just a few hours. And so, yeah, I think those were fatal flaws for me so far as being able to connect with it. I'm glad you keep talking about it because you're making me think of things to talk about. Thank you.
So, when I was trying to figure out what I thought your score would be, I came down to 2 out of 5. I deducted a point for the child dying because I figured you weren't going to be into the movie and you would think that that was not justified. And you need to think that a child dying is justified. So I deducted 1 point for that. 1 point at least for the religious lady. And then I knew the effects in the military part were going to be things that I thought maybe like half a point each. So I think I almost nailed how you would feel about this.
If you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you should be able to watch any movie whatsoever and at least 3 out of 4 times know whether or not I enjoyed it. I am a basic bitch when it comes to movies. It's fucking Michelle can predict things pretty clearly most of the time. It's wild. But yeah.
Religious lady and a kid death and an edgy ending, you weren't gonna like it.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like I don't like to encourage such a thing, but I almost wish this is a movie that would get a remake because I feel like there is a good movie in here. It just it needed an editor, a story editor, and it needed some practical effects. Give me 3 or 4 real tentacles over a dozen fake tentacles any day of the week, guys. And here's the wild thing about it is, if what I understand, and maybe I'm just misinformed, but if what I understand is true, the practical effects are cheaper too. Like, it's less expensive to do it practically than it is to do it digitally. It's less expensive. It looks better. Why don't more people do it, Michelle?
I know. And they're called practical effects for that reason. It makes a lot of practical sense to use them.
Yeah, well, oh well. There are thankfully people still out there doing the right thing.
Yeah. So few of them. Especially when the mist comes rolling in. When the mist comes rolling in, oh man, nobody will do the right thing.
How fucking bad does Stephen King hate John Carpenter for making that movie? Because that is not mist. It's fog. That's fucking fog. It is not mist. And everybody involved in this knows it, and you can just feel that it's like, God damn it, why can't we just call it the fog? But
oh yeah, I had to go look at when The Fog was released, 1980, 5 years before his story was.
Yep. It's like, why did you have to call it The Fog?
I mean, he also could have referred to it as fog in the book and then named it something different. It didn't have to be the mist or the fog. It could have been like spooky animals outside in the white cloudy stuff.
Well, you wouldn't want to talk about the spooky animals, but...
okay. Yeah. How about just white cloudy stuff?
Yeah.
The clouds are falling. How about that?
Clouds on the ground.
The clouds are falling.
On the ground.
Clouds on the ground. Clouds on the ground. See? Way better.
That's a way better title, Stephen King. Get your shit together. Anyway, yeah, so I feel like this is a movie that a lot of people like for good reason. It just didn't work for me. You guys know how that goes. Michelle clearly fucking loves it. Other people clearly fucking love it. Yeah, you should probably check it out if you respect Michelle's opinion whatsoever. If you don't respect Michelle's opinion whatsoever, why are you listening to our podcast? Go fuck yourself. I only want you to care about my opinion. I only want people to care about my opinion if they care about your opinion too, Michelle.
Oh, well, thank you. I want people to not give a fuck about either of our opinions, but still enjoy listening to us anyway.
That's fair.
If they're like, man, every single time they're wrong, which is funny because a lot of the time we disagree, especially on like this movie.
Right.
And there's going to be somebody out there who's like, wow, they're both wrong again. I'm nice in the middle at a 3.5. Well,
I think what we're both getting at is regardless of how you take us on an even fucking keel.
Yeah. Even keel.
Do you know what an even keel means, Michelle?
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck a keel is, but I know the phrase.
It's a boating thing.
Oh, I don't boat. Yeah. I don't like water. Yeah. I don't fuck with water. Are you kidding me? There was water in this movie, and bad things happened in it. That condensation, mist, fog stuff, that's water.
Not even like a swimming pool?
Hell no.
Oh, I like going to the swimming pool every now and then. I like being
I need to be able to
water.
See. I will do a swimming pool if there's a lot of people around, so that if there's a snake that suddenly finds its way into the swimming pool, which has happened when I was in one, then it might go after other people and not me. So that I want more people in the swimming pool than just me. But if it's just me, I also need at least one person outside of the swimming pool so that if there's something creepy on the bottom that just appears out of nowhere, they can see it. I need to swim with several spotters is essentially what it is. And not because I'm at risk of drowning. I grew up in lake country. I'm a very good swimmer. I used to swim all the time. That was the only thing I did during the summer. But now there's some spooky stuff out there and I don't want it. And so I need people to like just watch and make sure that like a ghost doesn't manifest and pull me under and now I'm drowning even though I'm a good swimmer. And also I wear glasses and I have to take my glasses off to swim, so I'm essentially blind and just echolocating myself around the swimming pool. And that's very scary to not be able to see. I can only see shapes, and I'm like, I hope this person I'm swimming towards is my friend. It's not. Now, this is an awkward situation. I'm very afraid of awkward situations in the swimming pool. That's happened a lot to me. I have very bad eyesight. And you can't wear contacts and open your eyes under the water. Or you might get parasites that eat your eyes, JD.
Michelle?
That's what happens. They get trapped between your contact and your eye, and they make your eye deteriorate.
I know. Michelle?
I don't fuck with water. Yeah.
Are you aware you can get prescription swimming goggles?
Yeah, but then I look like a fucking nerd.
It's not getting any better than that. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
For more horror content, visit WeWatchShutter.com, where you'll find our world-famous, patent-pending Ghoul blog and Squelch files, as well as a schedule of upcoming episodes. Find us on social media at WeWatchShutter on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I guess Twitter if you're still doing that for whatever reason. You can email us. mail@WeWatchShutter.com is the address. mail@WeWatchShutter.com. You can even call and leave us a voicemail, 701-566-9510. No, really. 701-566-9510. Give it a shot. See what happens. We Watch Shutter is a production of Rat Factory Media.